Hello and welcome to Enjoy English School.
欢迎来到 Enjoy 英语学院
I'm Stevie.
And I'm Laurie.
And today we are looking at day 2 of our lesson about marathons. So our title, Marathons, Race of a Lifetime, is really about something not many people do in their life. Yesterday we talked about the Taipei Marathon. It started in 1986, but kind of took a break from 1990 to 2000. And since it started up again in 2000, it's become bigger and more famous.
所以呢，既然在昨天我们看到了有关于一些台北马拉松的资讯，但是今天更酷了，要带大家来看到原来世界上有名的马拉松赛并不是只有台北市哦，所以我们赶快跟着 Stevie 老师一起来看看，到底还有哪些城市的马拉松是有名的呢？
All right, as Laurie just mentioned in Chinese, the Taipei Marathon is not the only city marathon in the world. Of course, we knew that. Yeah.
对，所以呢，我们一开始文章就告诉我们了他说这个台北马拉松并非是全世界唯一的一个市区的马拉松赛。
In fact, there are many other marathons that happen throughout the year, that happen all year long.
所以接下来讲到说，那么事实上呢，有许多其他的，这里的 others 指的当然就是前面既然你有提到了一个市区马拉松，所以这边他不想再重复了所以就讲到说有许多其他的，其实就是其他的市区马拉松赛呢 that happen 就是会这个举办然后呢 throughout the year 所以呢是一整年，一年到头都有。所以这里的这个 happen 呢，或者也可以用 take place 都是一样的意思，就是举办的意思。
And we could even add that they happen all year long, all around the world. We could add that. Okay. So looking at the first marathon, the first paragraph here, or the next paragraph, I should say, the Boston Marathon is the world's oldest annual marathon. Now, when we say it's the world's oldest, we know what that means. It's the very first marathon the world ever had, right? And it's an annual marathon, which means it happens yearly, every year.
Once a year.
Yeah, once a year.
没错，所以呢，我们首先来看到第一个介绍的市区马拉松赛，就是这个波士顿的马拉松呢，则是全世界的这个 oldest 我们可以翻成历史最悠久的，那么 annual 是指年度的，就是一年一次的的这个马拉松赛。
How old is it? Well, since 1897, it has been held on Patriots Day, which is the third Monday of April, which in Boston could be really cold.It could be a nice spring day, or it could be a really cold day.
OK, 好，所以呢，接下来这句他讲到说，那么从1897年开始，原来波士顿这个马拉松它开始的年份是这里所以从1897年开始以来呢 ，it 当然是指这个波士顿的马拉松赛，它 has been held。这里注意到我们可以用到这个 hold 这个动词就是举办的意思。那么这里当然因为你的主词是马拉松赛，所以它是被举办所以呢，那么一直以来都是维持这样子的一个状态，所以我们很恰当的可以用一个现在完成式。所以呢，就是它一直以来呢都是在这个爱国者日所来举办的。那么爱国者日是什么样的一个日子呢？逗号的后面告诉我们，也就是每年4月的第3个礼拜一。
Yeah, and Patriots Day is not like a national holiday. Okay, but it does means it means a person who loves their country and serves their country.
所以呢，刚刚 Stevie 老师是补充说，这个爱国者日当然是一个这个爱国，就是纪念爱国者们的这个日子啦但是它并不是一个国定的假日，就是了。
So, pardon me, it's very popular, meaning the marathon, the Boston Marathon, it's very popular among long-distance runners, people who, they don't do short races, they do long races. So we call them long distance runners. So it's very difficult to qualify for a spot. It's often very difficult to qualify for a spot. When we say you qualify for a race, 你要先有这个资格, right?
That's right.
So I don't know how else to say this in English. And remember I said yesterday it's important that the Taipei Marathon is approved by the World Athletics Association.
That's right.
Because if it's not, then you might not qualify if you want to go to a race like the Boston Marathon. All right, you have to qualify for that. And it's difficult. Not everybody gets to be in it.
所以呢，接下来我们来看到这一句，他讲到说就是呢 ，it again， 它指的当然是波士顿马拉松它呢是 very popular 当你讲它 very popular 的时候，通常后面你会接到一个对象所以呢，它是非常的受欢迎，受到谁的欢迎 ？among 的后面告诉我们，受到长距离跑者们的欢迎然后所以呢 ，it。Again， 当然是这个波士顿马拉松呢，它呢常常就是非常难以取得一个参赛的资格这里我们看到的这里的 spot， 它指的是一个位置的意思，所以你要能够得到一个位置，能够呢去参赛，这件事情在对波士顿马拉松赛来讲是非常不容易的。
Now, that is if you are a professional runner and you want to win the money. If you want to win some money.But what if you're not? Every year we see the Boston Marathon on TV. We see a lot of people. Not all those people are qualified long-distance racers, right? Well, you can sign up to do this if you do it for charity or for other things. Because the next sentence it's kind of a 连接It's connected to the sentence before. It's very difficult to qualify for a spot unless you're running to support charity. You will need to prove you're fast enough to participate. So if you want to qualify, you have to prove you're fast enough. All right? But if you're running to support charity,If you're running for personal goals, then you might still be able to get in to the race.
OK， 所以我们看到下一句讲到说，除非你跑是为了要支持这个 charity， 我们讲慈善事业或公益事业那么而跑的话呢，那否则这里的逗号后面告诉我们，你将会需要呢，要证明你的速度是足以能够来参赛的所以呢，你要跑得够快来参赛，换言之，你的速度要有这样子一个参赛的实力，那才有办法拿到一个参赛资格。
Okay, we'll take a quick break and we're going to come back and look at the London Marathon. Okay, looking at this one. The London Marathon is one of the most famed and prestigious international marathons. So this is one, the Boston Marathon was very famous in the States for a long time.And now it's known as international, but the London Marathon, it's always been known as kind of an international marathon. So it's one of the most famed, and in this case, we could say it's one of the most famous and prestigious. Prestigious means it kind of has like a high, if you've run in the London Marathon, that's like, you're kind of a high-level runner. It's very prestigious. Like, yes, I've been in the London Marathon. I haven't, but
OK，
我是假装的。
好，所以我们来看到呢，接下来介绍的第二个马拉松他讲到说，伦敦马拉松呢，可以说是呢这个国际马拉松赛事里头最具盛名most famed， 而且呢也最富有声望 most prestigious 的这个马拉松的赛事了所以这个结构本身蛮简单的，那你学到两个形容词，那这里的 famed 也可以呢换成用刚刚这个 Stevie 老师讲的 famous 也可以。
The runners who compete in this race are usually the world's best endurance athletes. So not just the best runners, but the best endurance athletes. When we say somebody can endure, it means they can go for long periods of time. They can, 英文我们会说 they can take a lot of punishment. You know,
okay.
How do you say it?
持久
很
有耐力
That's the word I was looking for. You have to have a lot of endurance to run long marathons.
好的，所以呢，接下来的这一句我们来看到，他讲到说那么呢，在这一项比赛里头在这个竞赛的跑者们呢，他们呢 are generally 刚刚讲到，通常是一般是怎么样呢？是全世界最好的这个耐力的运动员。所以刚刚讲到这个 endurance 耐力，那么其实它是从这个 endure 这个动词来的那么呢，除了当忍耐忍受之外，它也可以当持续持久那当持续的时候，其实就等于那个另外一个动词叫 last 所以呢是可以这样一起来记的。
Usually taking place in the spring, the race is where a number of world marathon records have been made. Okay, so this means the London Marathon, this race usually takes place in the spring. So when we say it takes place we know it takes place in London, but now we said it takes place in a time. So this means this is when it happens. It usually happens in the spring, and the race, the London Marathon, is a place where a number, this means more than a few, maybe not many or maybe many, but more than a few, where a number of world marathon records have been made. So, and if you make a new record, what did you do? You broke the old record.
That's right.
So a lot of world records have been broken and made.
所以呢，接下来这边他讲到说了，那么通常是这个举办于春季的这个伦敦马拉松呢，它呢这个比赛是呢在这个可以说是许多的这个世界马拉松的记录这里我们看到的 records， 这里它是名词所以注意并不是动词。那么呢因为是多项这个 a number of 多项的世界马拉松记录，所以这里当然加了一个 s。然后呢是在这个都在这个赛事里头呢被缔造出来的，这里的 have been made 那么 make a record， 刚刚 Steve 老师已经提到了，就是创一项记录。那这里因为记录是这个主词，所以呢 have been made 我们选择用一个被动式。那么呢刚刚讲的另外一个呢就是破纪录的话是 break a record，这两个也可以一起来记。
Okay, we're going to take a quick break and we're going to come back and talk about the Berlin Marathon. Okay, looking at the Berlin Marathon organized its first race in 1974. That means they had the first Berlin Marathon in 1974. And we could say they had their first marathon, but we say it was organized because it's more than just saying, let's have a marathon tomorrow. Okay. You have to organize it. So when we say a race is organized, that means they have to do all of the things for just like any event. You have to find out where they're going to be going. We need to set up traffic rules, have policemen, have helpers. So they have to organize it. And this is why we say, often when we say we want to have an event, we'll say they organized, or we have to organize an event.
所以呢我们来看到了这边的第一句讲到说了，柏林马拉松呢它筹办了它的第一次的赛事于1974年那么这边刚刚讲到了这个 organize 这个动词呢，主办或筹办。那其实呢就像刚刚 Stevie 老师他描述的，就是它并不是很单纯的就是只是有一场赛事。那这个所谓的筹办主办，它可能包含了你要这个处理很多的事情然后要打点很多的这个事情。所以呢这里它有这样 样子的一个意味。那其实 organize 的话，我们有时候也会当成是组织哦，或者是呢这个设立来使用哦。那有的时候呢，比如说你整理你的思绪啊，你让你的这个有些东西能够很系统化，我们也会用 organize 这个动词啊。所以在这里的话呢，我们把它翻成主办或筹办，那就是有刚刚讲的那种很多的准备的那个意味在里面。
It, the Berlin Marathon, is typically usually held on the last weekend of September. So it was held in September.
好，所以接下来呢讲到的这个 it 当然是指柏林的马拉松，它则是呢一般来说这里的 typically 一般来说呢是被举办于这里我们看到的 held pp 这里的 hold 也是主办筹办的意思，所以呢被这个举办于9月的最后一个周末。
In addition to being a world-class event, it is also considered or thought of one of the world's fastest marathons. So it's the one that people run the fastest.
然后呢，接下来讲到说，除了身为这个世界级的活动或世界级的赛事之外那么呢 ，it again 就是指我们的柏林马拉松呢，也被公认为这里的 be considered 就是呢被公认为呢是这个 one of 什么的之一 ，world's fastest marathons 就是世界上速度最快的马拉松之一那么这里当然要小心的就是呢 in addition to 后面我们常常会这个很顺的就讲 to be 那么但是这里要小心，这里的 to 是介词，所以后面要放的是 being.
The flat course, the road they're running, because it's so flat, the flat course has resulted in world marathon records being broken on 11 occasions, on 11 different times.
然后呢，这句讲到说就是呢，这个 flat 是指平坦的意思 ，course 是指呢这个比赛的一个路线，所以呢地形平坦的这个比赛路线呢，也 resulted in 就是造成了世界马拉松的记录在这个赛事里头呢被11次的打破了。所以这边呢，我们刚刚讲到的那个 break a record，这里的破纪录的破就这个动词出现了。
Okay, quick break, and we're going to look at the Tokyo Marathon. Okay, now looking at the Tokyo Marathon. The Tokyo Marathon is a newer event. It's newer than the others that we're talking about, more new than the others, that made its debut. That means this is when it started, in 2007.
所以呢，首先我们来看到第一句讲到了这个东京的马拉松呢，它则是一个比较新的这个赛事。然后怎么样呢 ？That 后面补充到，而且是在2007年呢首次登台亮相，叫做 made its debut.
And we say debut instead of debut because it's French.
对
，it's from French.
这个字是法文所以呢，我们呢这个后面的 t 不用发，然后是发 debut那就是指初次登台亮相的意思。
During its first run, and this is not the people running the race, the first time that they had the marathon, during its first run, there were 30,000 participants, people that were running in the race.
所以接下来讲到，而在第一次的赛事里头，这里的 its 指的是东京马拉松赛，它的第一次的赛事里头呢，就有了3万名的这个参赛者。
That's a lot. So in 2019, when the event was still open to the general public, that means it was open to everybody. Okay, so when it was still open to everybody, there were more than 330,000 people.
哇哦！所以接下来讲到，而在2019年呢，当这个赛事它还是呢这个开放给叫做 open to 开放给 the general public 是所有的大众的时候呢，那么呢人数呢就超过了33万。
And the reason we don't have to say 300,000 people in the sentence is because we're talking about participants. There were 30,000 participants the first time, there were 330,000 the next time.
没错
Yeah.
这里的 participant 就不用再重复了。
The race, the Tokyo Marathon, takes place in the early spring.
那么这项赛事呢，则是在这个我们讲早春或者是初春的时分呢来举行的。
Okay, that's all the time we have. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back with a quick review. Really quickly, when we're talking about a marathon, we use the word course because course is the road they have chosen to run.
The path.
The path, P-A-T-H. And often in races, you hear about people running on a track. Well, it's different. The course could change every year if you're running through the city. It's just the way, the path that you take. But if you're running on a track, that's like in a sports stadium where you're running in a circle. Okay, so track and course are different.
Can you spell track?
T-R-A-C-K.
所以这两个字，一个是路线course， 一个是跑道 track， 两个呢很像，但是你可以把它一起背起来，它是不一样的。
That's all the time we have for today. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
第32页休闲小站，耐力与毅力的终极考验马拉松。
Marathons, the race of a lifetime. The Taipei Marathon is not the only city marathon in the world. In fact, there are many others that happen throughout the year. A. The Boston Marathon. The Boston Marathon is the world's oldest annual marathon. Since 1897, it has been held on Patriots' Day, which is the third Monday of April. It's very popular among long-distance runners, so it's often very difficult to qualify for a spot. Unless you're running to support charity, you will need to prove you're fast enough to participate. B. The London Marathon. The London Marathon is one of the most famed and prestigious international marathons. The runners who compete in this race are generally the world's best endurance athletes. Usually taking place in the spring, the race is where a number of world marathon records have been made. C. The Berlin Marathon. The Berlin Marathon organized its first race in 1974. It is typically held on the last weekend of September. In addition to being a world-class event, it is also considered one of the world's fastest marathons. The flat course has resulted in world marathon records being broken on 11 occasions. D. The Tokyo Marathon. The Tokyo Marathon is a newer event that made its debut in 2007. During its first run, there were 30,000 participants. In 2019, when the event was still open to the general public, there were over 330,000. It takes place in the early spring.